I'm Amadea Morningstar, and I'm a registered polarity educator, a yoga teacher, and I have a master's in counseling. I've worked with Ayurveda and polarity therapy for many years, and I find them a very exciting. I find polarity therapy a great resource in working with Marma Chikitsa. And I'd like to begin to talk about that today. And first, I very much want to thank Seva Van Wy for um, catalyzing this whole program and, and for pioneering the rescue of polarity therapy in a certain way today. So I'm just delighted to be here. So polarity therapy is a 100-year-old system of healing that has some strong correlations with Ayurveda and yet also um, has some unique points. We're going to now look at how we can integrate Marma therapy with a polarity therapy approach in terms of the relationship emphasis. As I said, often two or more Marma points are used together rather than a single point. And how these points connect with one another, how they relate to one another, is given attention. And we're going to be playing with this in a moment. There are shared experiences and principles in Ayurveda that I'd like to mention. The Mahagunas of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas um, are represented in polarity therapy as the polarity principles. So you'll a broader perspective on the doshas and their needs. Each of us has our ways of calming Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, both in terms of Prakruti and Vikruti. So again, I'm Amadea Morningstar, here to talk about how polarity therapy and Marma Chikitsa can play together. And this second module is about the toe balance. And I'm just delighted to be here with Seva Van Wy, and I'm just so excited about your Marma program, Seva, and all that you're teaching right now, and so glad to be included in this. So just thank you so much.
You're so welcome. We're so blessed to have you. Thank you.
As I mentioned, while polarity therapy has in common with Ayurveda the koshas, the mahagunas in the form of the polarity principles, the elements, respect for energy, working with therapeutic points. There's this one unique piece that Dr. Stone talked about, which were these three currents of energy that he perceived around the body. And so as they wrap around the toes, it's just what you'd expect. The big toes, the space line wraps around that. The second toes, the air lines. The third toes relate to fire, the fourth to water, and the fifth to earth. Hi, I'm Amadea Morningstar. I have a master's in counseling. I'm a registered polarity educator and a registered yoga teacher. And I've been working with polarity therapy for the last 30 years and Marma Chikitsa for almost the same amount of time. I got interested in it in the mid to late 1990s. And I've really found that polarity therapy and Marma therapy are a nice blend. They integrate well. And the three modules that I've been sharing is part of Seva's program, and I'm just delighted to be working with Seva Van Wy in this Marma program. Each of these three modules I use all the time in my practice. So it's why I'm especially excited about us recording these, because I have been using them on a daily basis in my private practice for a long while. And I find them extremely useful. And so I'm glad to be sharing them. This third module is called the Three-Pointed Star. It's from Dr. Randolph Stone. So one purpose of the five-pointed star was to relieve tension in these five areas: the neck, the two shoulders, and the two hips. It's time now for discussion, questions, observation. savor what she had to say.
Oh, that last one was beautiful. I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah, I woke up early this morning and I went, oh, that needs to be in there.
Thank you. I think it does because there's a lot going on out there that we could suffer about and that we are suffering about. I did wake up this morning with a lot of suffering for what's going on in Asheville and in that part of the country because there's a lot of devastation and then there's my own personal suffering, which, it's mine. It's not as bad as whatever other people are going through, but it's still it's still mine and it's still my story. But I love it when I can have new tools in my tool belt.
But it's a way, yeah, it's a really strong way to transform our own suffering to it's like win-win. Like I'll oftentimes use it when if I wake up in the middle of the night and like I'm having a hard time going back to sleep. It's a great breath because it's like not only all my warrior, or it's just like everybody's just like transformed.
Yeah. 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 It's all about transformation, really. So, however I can transform something into something better, then I feel purposeful. I feel like I'm supporting the universe and the evolving, you know, humanity evolving towards something better.
Exactly.
By doing my little part right here. So thank you for doing your part and sharing us with that, sharing with us that so that we can, practice more consciously and more globally. We're the microcosm and then out there's the macrocosm, but we're affected by it, inevitably. So it does work both ways. People always wonder, like, how does me just having self-love, self-care cause change in the world? Well, it's because we're the macrocosm and we're all connected.
We're all connected. We're all part of the same soup.
Yes.
And if our part of the soup is getting tasty, that's important.
Yes, tasty and yummy and soft. And I really loved the sensation of the relaxation and the energizing at the same time. That came through really strongly, and I was loving that because relaxation doesn't always mean no energy.
Exactly. There's like you can be alive and relaxed.
Exactly. I can have energy, I can be productive, I can flow, but it doesn't have to be with any other energy besides a relaxed kind of energy. Like I don't have to be anxious, I don't have to be a hard taskmaster on myself.
Yeah.
It's like things will get done and there's no reason to come out of that relaxation, which is what I really loved about the whole vagal work. Working through that, feeling that grounding happening from having a lot going on up here to it just literally just sinking and going somewhere else. And that was a lovely sensation as well because it's like a relief. Like you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, literally. But then if you're working with this area and then the polarity bringing it down, then that sensation goes down as well. It's like, okay, it's been lifted off of me, or it's been, taken down into the earth energy where that can be transformed into something, so always transforming something into something better, something good, something more effective for ourselves and others.
Remind me too that I mentioned the other thing to know about the shoulders and the hips. So 5 points of the star, four of those points are shoulders and hips. the shoulders relate to our social self, and you can look at yourself in the mirror, or you can watch clients as they're talking or moving. And so it's like the shoulders have to do with what the world sees of us, like how we connect. And if
Mhm.
hips are our private, intimate, there's the private, intimate relationships. So they're very different, and yet when we connect the social to the private to the social, it's very powerful.
Mhm. Mhm.
I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did, because that was exactly the next thing I was going to say is, could you speak more about that social relationship? Because you brought it up, but I was wanting to understand it a little better. Um, I mean, I can think, it's obvious that I would have more of an intimate relationship with my hip area than my shoulder area. But there's more to it than the obvious. So I was just, if there's anything more you want to share on that, or
Just
how we can
I
put
would
it in a
just
context.
yeah, I would just lean into the obvious in that the shoulders are people easily see what's going on with us in the shoulders. So it's sort of like
How
the
we're
more
carrying ourselves. Yeah.
exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot communicated in the shoulders on a day-to-day level. Whereas, yeah, so that's whereas we can hide more in our hips.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're doing the five-pointed star, there's this whole reconciliation between how we're seen and who we really are,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately. So there's just some nice kinds of reconciliation that can happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my birthday was Monday, and it was International Reconciliation Day in Canada, and I thought, oh, that's cool. It was also World Rhinoceros Day.
Oh my goodness.
Seeing a
I
little,
can't keep track anymore.
I know, but there's a really, I really resonate with that sense of, can two opposites reconcile, or like how are we
Mm.
to bridge the energy between these two places? And
Mm-hmm.
lots of times when I put my hands on those places on someone, there'll be really different things going on, like almost two different dances, like maybe different rhythms, different stories. And they're like, hey, wait, I haven't even noticed you, and
Mm-hmm.
so I really appreciate that about the five-pointed star.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I have really, really enjoyed this. And, I always knew there was a connection between the hips and the shoulders as a body worker, understanding the anatomy and everything, but it's really, really helpful to bring the fullness of the understanding with the part of the energetics.
Yeah.
And the way he, made that diagram, it's such a valuable it's such valuable knowledge.
Yeah,
Really does depth, brings depth to you as a therapist to really understand these things.
it's an invitation to explore,
Yeah.
like each
Yeah.
of these patterns is like there's infinite amounts of stuff to explore. It's just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And in your exploration, who knows what the universe will show you? There's many things that are left for there for in there for us to discover still. So
Exactly.
even though this is so ancient, we can bring it into the here and now and still discover more beautiful things that are there. And that's what I love about the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you're inspired that way, which is brings a whole lovely dimension to, or dynamic to your learning.
And I guess I said this probably in another module, that one of the wonderful things about polarity therapy, especially for those of us who have been in body work for a long time, is that it's very win-win. It's
Mm-hmm.
also that same kind of relaxed, energized feeling is happening for the therapist as the person receiving, and when it's an on the table situation. And so I'm grateful, in being in my 70s, that it's still just a really fun way to play.
Yeah. 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 And it's probably served you so well all these years, so much so that it's like a big, like what you just shared with us is a daily practice for you. because it serves you so well. Yeah. So